Hi, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad. This is the Firefighter's Financial Toolbox. Today we're going to talk about your home. Now, there's a lot of people that say a home is a good investment, and there's people that say it's not a good investment. If you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, who I agree with his book, I love Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I don't necessarily agree with him 100% on home ownership. So this is an article that I found on a website called Money Under 30. So this is for younger people. And we're going to talk about why it says your home is not an investment. All right, let's take a look. So buying a house is a major financial decision that can give you peace of mind, a wonderful place to live, but it is not an investment. It's common for people to think of their house as an investment, but this misses the mark on a few fronts. Based on a number of factors, a single family home that you live in is not an investment. Now, this is a single home. This is your primary home, you guys, versus a home that you buy as a rental property that is designed to create income. That's not necessarily saying that you should avoid home ownership, but if you're leaning towards buying because you think it's a smart investing decision, think twice. The idea that your primary residence can be an investment comes from the fact that historically, real estate values go up. And that's true, especially right now where we're seeing real estate go through the roof. It's like we all know someone, a parent, a grandparent perhaps, who bought their homes decades ago for less than $100,000, and now it's worth several times that sum. And I mean, as someone who recently sold a home that he bought 22 years ago, yes, I saw a significant appreciation in my home as well. But remember, it's not an investment just because it appreciates. Now let's get into this a little deeper and we'll talk about my personal experience too. For the sake of this argument, we're going to ignore the fact that over the long run, average home price values appreciate only slightly more than inflation. In other words, over the last 100 years, average U.S. real estate values gained less than 1% if they were adjusted for inflation. Assuming a home's value only increased at the rate of inflation, a property purchased in 1970 for $100,000 would be worth $625,873 today. Now, that's a 526% increase. But when you adjust it for inflation, it actually didn't make that much money. It's not to say that real estate values cannot appreciate dramatically. They can and do, but such appreciation is more likely in specific desirable real estate markets. Okay, so let's talk about mine. So I bought my house in 1999, you guys, and I just recently sold it. And honestly, I tripled the money. But here's the thing. I had to take the appreciated money I made on that to put it into the new house that I bought in Arizona. So even though I made money on the house over what I bought it for, I definitely put all that money and then some into my new home. A house has a more important primary purpose. Probably the single biggest reason why a house is not an investment is because it's where you live. It provides shelter. You guys, again, this is talking about a primary residence. One of the most basic factors that makes an investment is your ability to control the timing of your ownership. That means that you can buy and sell it at times and under circumstances that are likely to maximize your investment return. In other words, for example, buying a stock low, it appreciates a lot. You sell it, you take the gains. And we can think of traditional investments such as stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and even rental real estate as providing this ability. Since your home is your personal residence, you will have little control over the purchase and sale from an investment perspective. You'll purchase the house when you need it for shelter, and you'll sell it when you need to go to somewhere else, right? The lack of control over timing of buying and selling a house has had a major negative effect on houses as investments. And if you were trying to sell your house during the Great Recession back in 2009, you know exactly what I mean, right? And that was an example where prices, a lot of people got upside down, right? They bought at the top of the market because they sold their house and had made money on it. And then they got into it. The housing market collapsed and they were upside down. They weren't able to sell. That forced them to buy high and sell low, which we all know in investing isn't what we want to do. All right. A house can't be an investment if you never plan to sell it. While it is true that houses generally increase in value, there's only limited ability to tap into that increase. Now, as you know, you can do HELOCs and you can take equity from your home, but a lot of times you're doing that to improve it. Now, there are times when you would do that, but remember, then you've taken the equity out, so you still a lot of times have money that you owe on it. Thinking of your house as investment can lead to equity stripping, and this is where we get into it. There's another way you can pull equity out of your house, but it's hardly a method that's risk-free. You can borrow money out of your house, as we said with a HELOC, or you could do a straight-up cash-out refinance on your first mortgage, where you decide you want to take, let's say, $100,000 of your equity in your house for whatever purpose you need to use it for. And that may be putting some cash in your pocket, but remember, that liability not only creates a reduction of future cash flow, but it also puts your house at risk. If we had another housing meltdown, and it happened once, you guys, it could happen again. I'm not saying that it will. I certainly don't know that, but it could happen. And a lot of people during the last financial crisis who had done just that realized they were in big trouble because they actually owed a lot more than their house was worth. The carrying costs of a house are too high for it to be investment. Typically, when you purchase an investment, it doesn't require an ongoing investment in cash. For example, you buy a share of Tesla for whatever price. Let's say you buy it for $500. It goes up to $700, but you don't have to spend any more money on that $500 investment. Not so with a house. With houses, you have monthly mortgage payments, you have real estate taxes, you have homeowners insurance. If you don't have enough for the down payment, you might be paying PMI, which is primary mortgage insurance. And of course, you have to pay for the utilities to keep the house running, right? The gas, the electric, the garbage, all the stuff it takes to have that maintained. And once in a while, as you know, if you're a homeowner, stuff breaks. Water heater goes out, you have to replace that. These are ongoing costs that actually eat into the investment, if you want to call it that. So if we look at over a lifetime, those carrying costs are working against you. So let's say, for example, you purchase your house for $200,000 and 10 years later you sell it for $300,000. Sounds good, right? You made $100,000 on it. If the cost, let's say the house costs you $1,000 per month for principal, PMI, taxes, insurance, and then another $300 a month for utilities, you will have spent $15,600 a year. For the decade, that means over that decade, you spent $156,000 to live in that house. Now, it appreciated $100,000, but you actually spent $56,000 more than that just to live in that house. This is why, to me, a home is not an investment. Now, going into retirement, I'm looking at a little different. If you have a mortgage that is paid off, so you bought the house, you didn't buy it as investment property, you bought it as shelter, and you were aggressive about overpaying, and now you've paid off the mortgage. Now I look at it as a cash generating thing because that's money that you don't have to pay every month, right? Because you're not paying a mortgage. You still have to pay property taxes. You still have to pay for utilities. But think about that $1,000, let's say you had for your mortgage. That's $1,000 less every month that you don't have to spend in retirement. So that would be an extra $12,000 less that you could have to take out of your nest egg to continue living. So for me, having a paid off mortgage is actually a huge plus because as a renter, we would continue to give that money to another person as rent. What do you guys think? I think it, and the last thing on this article is it doesn't generate cash flow until it's paid off. And that's where I actually think it's a good idea in retirement to have a mortgage, but to have it paid off. What do you guys think? Do you think of your primary home as an investment? Did any of you buy into a property specifically for the appreciation you expected in the market? A lot of people do. Remember, we're talking about primary residence here, not secondary properties that you bought for rentals. How many of you have done that? Let me know in the comments. Am I way off base here? Do you agree with me or not? If you do, tell me. If you don't, do me a favor. Drop me a like. It really helps the algorithm. You guys, if you're not subscribed, you know the deal. Hit the red button, ring the bell. All right, we'll see you. Thanks.